My wife, after I survived the accident, arranged. It was a tragic mistake. Forgive me, let's not divorce. I replied. Then I presented the dash cam footage of her sabotaging my brakes to the police and the divorce court. She's now facing legal charges instead of a settlement. I, 45 male, am still trying to process the last few weeks. It feels like I'm watching a movie of someone else's life. 3 weeks ago, I nearly didn't make it home. It was a Wednesday, left work, same route I always take. Approached the big intersection by the park, lights turned yellow, so I went to slow down. Pedal went soft, not completely gone, but not right. Pumped it, managed to slow enough to swerve onto a side street, bumping the curb hard and taking out a no parking sign. Airbag didn't deploy, thankfully. But I was shaken, badly. My old sedan was definitely not drivable. Called my wife, Mary, 42. She was there in 20 minutes, full of panic and concern. "Oh my God, James, are you okay? What happened?" She was fluttering around, checking me for injuries. I just said the brakes felt weird, maybe a leak. She hugged me tight, said, "Thank God you're alive. It must have been terrifying. A tragic accident." The car got towed to our usual mechanic. I was mostly okay, couple of bruises, whiplashy neck. Mary was super attentive for the next few days. Kept saying how it could have been so much worse, how it was a wake-up call for us to appreciate each other. Felt a bit much, but I figured she was just scared. Something kept bugging me though. The brakes were serviced like 6 months ago. My car has a newer, high-quality dash cam, front and rear, records on motion even when parked. It has a pretty wide angle and decent night vision. I'd also recently installed a new security camera covering the driveway after a neighbor's car was broken into. Sunday evening, Mary was out with her sister, Patricia. I was bored, idly thinking about the car, and decided to pull the footage from both, just to see if there was anything weird leading up to it. What I found made my blood turn to ice. The security camera footage from the driveway, the night before the accident. Around 2 a.m. Clear as day under the security light, Mary. She crept out of the house, went to my car. She had a small wrench and a little bottle of something. She knelt down by the front driver's side wheel, fiddling with something for a good 10 minutes. The car's front dash cam, triggered by her movement, caught her approaching and then being at the front of the vehicle. It even showed her looking towards the windshield, a slight hesitation before she opened the hood. While the dash cam couldn't see exactly what she poured from its angle, combined with the security camera showing her actions with the bottle at the front of the car and her being under the hood, the implication was sickening. My stomach dropped. The mechanic later confirmed a contaminant in the brake fluid, something that would degrade the system, and noted tool marks on a brake line fitting. Space to think wasn't what she was giving me. It felt like she was trying to make sure I wouldn't be thinking at all. Permanently. She came home later that night, all smiles, asked how I was feeling. I just nodded, said better. Didn't let on. The next day, Monday, I took the SD cards and the security system footage to a specialist to make authenticated copies. Then I went to a lawyer. Then, with my lawyer present, I went to the police. Mary texted me Tuesday morning something about lunch. I just replied, "We need to talk tonight," about the car. That evening, she came into the study. "Mary, hey, you okay? You've been quiet? Still thinking about that awful accident?" "Mary, the police are looking into the accident. They have some questions based on what they found." Her face went pale. "The police? Why? What could they have found?" "It was just an accident. A mechanical failure. You said so yourself." Me, my initial thought, yes, but the evidence suggests otherwise. "Mary, James, what are you implying? That's a horrible thing to even suggest, after I was so worried about you." She started to get agitated. "Are you saying I had something to do with it? That's insane." It was only when I calmly stated, "They have security footage from the driveway, Mary, and the dash cam," that her composure completely shattered. Then the crocodile tears started, the desperate denials morphing. Okay, maybe I looked at the car. I was worried, but I wouldn't. It was a tragic mistake. I was stressed, not thinking. Forgive me, James, please. Let's not divorce over some misunderstanding." She actually tried to hug me. I just stepped back. Me. The footage of you with a wrench and a bottle by my car at 2 a.m. isn't a misunderstanding. The police have it all, so does my divorce lawyer. Her face, I'll never forget it. Not anger, not sadness. Pure, cold panic. She just stared. Me, you won't need to worry about a settlement. You'll be too busy with your criminal defense. Update 1, 4 weeks later. Well, it's been a month since I dropped that bomb on Mary, and boy has the drama ramped up. The entitlement is off the charts. So, the police didn't arrest her on the spot, obviously. They're building a case, which takes time. Detective Robert, the lead investigator, has been pretty communicative. He said the combination of the security footage showing her actions, the dashcam placing her there too, and the mechanic's report about the specific contaminant and tool marks makes a strong preliminary case. Mary got herself a lawyer, a real shark type named Mr. Michael. The day after our little chat, he was calling my lawyer, Miss Linda, trying to spin it as a misunderstanding, saying Mary was distraught, not herself, and that the footage was circumstantial and misinterpreted. Claims she was just anxiously checking the car because she was worried about its safety after reading about recalls online. At 2 a.m., with tools and a strange bottle. Right. Then came the Mary Sympathy Tour, starring her sister Patricia and their mom Jennifer. Patricia cornered me at the grocery store last week. Didn't even say hello. Patricia, James, you have to stop this. You're destroying Mary. She made a mistake, okay? A stupid, crazy mistake because she's been under so much stress. You know how she gets when she's not thinking clearly. Patricia, the evidence points to something far more deliberate than a whoopsie moment. She wouldn't. Not really. Maybe she just wanted to damage the car a bit to scare you, to make you pay more attention to her. You've been distant. The audacity. Blaming me. I just walked away. Her mom, Jennifer, is worse. She called me sobbing. Jennifer, James, how can you do this to my baby girl? She loves you. She's a good person. This is all a terrible misunderstanding. That video is grainy. It could be anything. You're twisting it. She needs help, not prison. Think of our family. Me, Jennifer. I am thinking of family. I'm thinking about how she almost took me away from mine. The evidence is clear. This conversation is over. Hung up. Miss Linda advised me to log all such contacts. The dirty tricks started about 2 weeks ago. First, a call from my boss. Apparently, an anonymous source expressed concern about my mental stability following my traumatic accident. Claimed I was paranoid, making baseless accusations, and obsessively reviewing security footage. Luckily, my boss knows me well, and I'd already given him a discreet heads up that something serious was going on with my impending divorce and a related police matter. He dismissed it, but it was a clear attempt to mess with my job. Classic Mary. Then, some of our mutual friends started getting weird. Texts like, "Hey man, heard Mary is going through a lot. Hope you're not being too hard on her." Some were clearly buying her narrative that I was overreacting to her checking on the car and that she was the victim of my sudden vendetta. Others just seemed to want to stay out of it, which was its own kind of frustrating. She's clearly spinning a tale, conveniently leaving out the details of the footage and the police investigation. Ms. Linda filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and, crucially, referencing the ongoing criminal investigation. We're not pushing for any immediate financial settlements beyond securing assets, because the criminal case outcome will likely influence things heavily. We did apply for an emergency order for her to vacate the house. It wasn't instant. Took about a week of legal back and forth, with Mr. Michael fighting it, arguing she had nowhere to go, despite her sister and mother apparently being very supportive. The judge, after Miss Linda carefully laid out the situation with a copy of the initial police report summary, finally granted it, giving her 72 hours. She's now staying with Patricia. The highlight of last week? Mary actually had the gall to text me, breaking the no contact except through lawyers rule that Miss Linda had to practically scream at Mr. Michael. "James, I need my jewelry from the safe and my summer clothes, and several specific kitchen appliances. You're being so cruel keeping my things." I screenshotted it, sent it to Ms. Linda, and didn't reply. My lawyer is arranging a supervised time for her to collect essential personal belongings, and reiterated that division of other property would be handled formally. The police are still building their case meticulously. Detective Robert said the DA is very interested, but wants an airtight case before filing formal charges. The waiting is stressful, not gonna lie. Every phone call makes me jump. But watching her entitlement and her family's attempts to gaslight me just solidifies my resolve. She didn't just make a mistake, she made a calculated decision. Now she gets to live with the calculated consequences. Final update, 6 months later. It's been just over 6 months since my life turned into a true crime podcast. Figured I owed a final update. Mary was formally charged with aggravated assault and reckless endangerment about 4 months ago. Attempted murder was harder to prove intent for beyond a shadow of a doubt with just the footage, as her lawyer argued she panicked and didn't intend serious harm. But the assault charge linked to the brake tampering was solid. Her lawyer, Mr. Michael, tried every trick in the book during pretrial motions, claimed she was sleepwalking, claimed she was having a psychotic break, claimed the security footage was tampered with by me. The expert analysis and chain of custody shut that down quick. He argued the dashcam footage was inconclusive on its own. It was a slog. The fallout among friends was interesting. Once the charges were public, some of the people who'd questioned me went silent or actually apologized. Others simply drifted away, clearly uncomfortable with the whole mess. A few diehards continued to parrot Mary's misunderstood woman narrative. Patricia and Jennifer, though? They doubled down. Jennifer even tried to give a tearful interview to some local gossip blogger about how her sweet, gentle Mary was being railroaded by a vindictive husband and a flawed justice system. It backfired spectacularly when the blogger dug up the public record details of the charges and the evidence summary. The divorce proceedings moved in parallel, often waiting on developments in the criminal case. Miss Linda was a rock star. When the security and dashcam footage were formally entered as evidence in the criminal case, along with the mechanic's forensic report, we submitted it all in the divorce. Mr. Michael argued it was prejudicial and irrelevant to asset division in a no-fault state. Miss Linda's response was gold. While this state operates on no-fault principles for dissolution, my client's physical safety and the respondent's attempts to cause him grievous harm, potentially to inherit or control assets, are exceptionally relevant to ensuring an equitable, not necessarily equal, division and determining issues like spousal support and legal fee contributions. Mary's entitlement never wavered. During one particularly tense mediation session, court-ordered, what a joke, she actually looked me in the eye and said, "James, if you just told the police you misinterpreted the video, that I was just checking for a suspected brake fluid leak you'd mentioned, we could sort all this out. I'd even consider a smaller settlement. You know I can't survive on my own." I just stared at her until Miss Linda told her that her version of events was contradicted by all available evidence and was not a basis for negotiation. The dirty tricks continued. Patricia tried to plaster posters around my neighborhood saying I was emotionally abusive and driving Mary to a breakdown. They lasted about half a day before someone, not me I swear, but I'd buy them a beer, took them all down. Then, an anonymous complaint to animal control that I was neglecting my non-existent dog. It was so ridiculous it was almost funny. Almost. Each stunt was documented and handed to Miss Linda, who noted a pattern of harassment, which she later presented as evidence of Mary's ongoing malicious conduct. The climax, Mary facing overwhelming evidence and the prospect of a much harsher sentence if convicted at trial, finally took a plea deal about 2 months ago. This came after months of legal wrangling and her lawyer realizing the DA wasn't bluffing. She pled guilty to a lesser felony assault charge and tampering with a motor vehicle. Her sentence, handed down last month, 5 years with parole eligibility after 2, plus mandatory therapy. Mr. Michael tried to argue for probation, citing her fragile mental state, lack of prior offenses, and remorse, which no one but him seemed to witness. The judge wasn't having it, stating that the calculated nature of the act, the use of specific tools, and the extreme potential for lethal consequences demonstrated a clear danger to the victim and society. Jennifer wailed in court. Patricia glared at me like I was the one who put Mary in that position. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. With her felony conviction directly related to endangering my life, Miss Linda successfully argued that Mary's conduct amounted to egregious fault and an attempt to dissipate marital assets, i.e., me, the primary earner. The judge, in the final ruling, noted that while asset division aims for equitable, The respondent's criminal actions designed to harm the plaintiff were a severe factor. I was awarded the house, which I'm now selling to move somewhere with zero Mary memories, and a larger share of the marital investments. My pension was untouched. She got her personal items and a small buyout, much of which will likely be consumed by Mr. Michael's fees. No spousal support was awarded, with the judge citing her conduct as the primary reason. It wasn't a dramatic speech, but Miss Linda said the written judgment was scathing about Mary's actions. Mary is currently in a state correctional facility. Heard through the grapevine, a former mutual acquaintance who is definitely not on her side anymore, that she's already complaining about the food and the uncouth inmates. The shock of actual consequences, not just Mommy and Patricia fixing everything, must be immense. Jennifer and Patricia still send me hateful messages occasionally, which I forward to Miss Linda, who is considering a harassment order if they don't stop. They blame me for not being a man and forgiving her mistake. Some people are just determined to live in denial. Me, James? I'm healing. It's a process. Sold the death trap car for scrap, obviously. The new place I'm looking at has a really good security system. The biggest feeling is relief. The constant tension is gone. The revenge, if you can call it that, wasn't some grand, devious plan on my part. It was just me, methodically handing the evidence of her actions to the people whose job it is to deal with it, and enduring the often slow, frustrating grind of the legal system. She built her own prison, literally. I just held the door open by telling the truth and protecting myself. The silence in my house now is peaceful. I'm starting to sleep through the night again. It's strange to think how close I came to not being here. But I am, and she isn't. And that, I've realized, is the most satisfying justice of all. Time to find a new coffee machine. Mine.